Hi, I'm Zeyc, and I thought of some comparisons for... One of them is Godzilla vs. Kong is like a sloppy blowjob. It's neat while it's going, but afterwards there isn't really anything to make you want more unless you like the person, in this case being Godzilla and Kong, or if you have no better options. And with that out of the way, welcome to a review of Godzilla vs. Kong that's far too late and overly in-depth. Why? Because, well, in my country it came out 2 months late, and then it took me 1 month to actually watch it. And well, now that I did, well, it's alright. The day after I watched it, I rewatched Godzilla King of the Monsters for comparison, and yeah, the story of Godzilla vs. Kong isn't as stupid as the one from King of the Monsters. For King of the Monsters, the story was so bad and stupid, it actually hurts me to watch it. But now, don't get me wrong, Godzilla vs. Kong's story is still bad. For now, I'm not going to go too much into spoilers. That'll happen later in a separate video. But right off the bat, the movie introduces an absolute idiot who, together with 2 kids, is part of one of 2 human groups we follow in this movie. And their group easily could have been left out, and the movie would have benefited from it. All the group is forced to give the viewer a perspective from the inside of the totally not evil corporation, and, well, to be a comic relief. Well, at least until at the end the writers noticed that this group didn't do shit to progress the story, so they made them help in a really minute way. The other human group is far more interesting, mainly because they actually get to explore actually interesting places within the monsterverse they set up so far. Though the other group too suffers from bad writing, like characters doing stuff they shouldn't be capable of according to what the movie set up beforehand, and the screen time of the idiot group could have far better been used to give more time to the exploration of those really interesting places. If they really wanted to give the viewer insight into what the totally not evil corporation is doing, they should have just given us some short scenes of them. But what specifically made the movie such a stale experience for me was that they really dropped the ball when it came to music and fight scenes compared to King of the Monsters. King of the Monsters' music, together with the exceptionally beautiful scenes they often accompanied, really hit the nail. Like the moment when Mothra hatched from her cocoon underneath a waterfall while a remixed version of her old theme was playing. Not only was the execution gorgeous, but the music too. Right after I watched King of the Monsters, I went online on Amazon and bought the CD to the soundtrack, which is something I just never do. This was the second, and at least as of right now, last time I ever bought a soundtrack to something. But Godzilla vs. Kong doesn't really have moments like these. I listened to the complete soundtrack, and all I can say about it, it's painfully average and forgettable. I watched the movie a few days ago and listened to the soundtrack yesterday, but I remember nothing off of it. Well, other than they quite often reuse the old Godzilla theme. For the most part, it's just generic, whatever the moment requires music, with some techno sprinkled in, which brings me to the fights, and it's hard to explain, but they just weren't satisfying like in King of the Monsters. For the most part, it often felt like both Godzilla and Kong weren't really themselves, both in and out of combat. One of the things in Pacific Rim that made the fight so great was both the lighting and the weight that you could see in the movement. And while they specifically later try to copy the lights from Pacific Rim, there doesn't seem to be any weight behind those giant creatures. They're basically just a big lizard and a big monkey, without any thought being put into how anything would interact with them. Many times they just stand or hang onto something that should absolutely not be capable of supporting their weight, especially considering the momentum those creatures carry when they jump onto these buildings. Exceptions are when those creatures actually want to destroy something, then the same buildings just break like a house of cards. I should probably rate this now, so I can continue to complain without having to care about spoiler. Just for comparison, I'd say Godzilla 2014 is roughly a 6 out of 10. Kong Skull Island, in my opinion, the best one of the MonsterVerse movies so far, 8.5 out of 10. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, which, like I said, had a story so stupid it actually hurts, but the fight scenes really make up for it. They don't save it completely, but I'd still say it's a 7.5 out of 10. And this movie, with all of its flaws, I'd say it too is roughly a 6 or 6.5 out of 10. While for King of the Monsters and Kong Skull Island, I do enjoy watching them every now and then, but I really can't see me wanting to rewatch this one anytime soon. And I feel like they knew this movie isn't that good, considering they didn't put an after credits scene into it to hype up the next movie, if there even is going to be one. Because as far as I'm aware, the Godzilla MonsterVerse always was somewhat on the edge of being worth it. Would I miss the legendary MonsterVerse if it ended? Honestly, I don't think I'd miss it that much. They seemed to care about fans when they gave us more and more monster screen time with each movie. One of the main complaints I've heard from other reviews, but I believe that its biggest problem is really bad writing. Yes, big monster, but it doesn't excuse bad writing. The original Godzilla movies, for the most part, had decent to good stories, while especially this Godzilla run suffers heavily from Deus Ex Machina, which is some unsolvable problem that are resolved by something very unlikely. Which brings me to the last thing I would like to recommend to the creators of those Godzilla movies, even though I'm 100% sure they won't actually watch this or listen to this. Put the most weight into stories, because this movie is just boring for the most part. Nothing feels natural. Characters just feel like they do things for the movie's sake instead of actually wanting to do stuff. This movie makes me sad. I had high hopes for the Godzillaverse after the first movie, and well, it really went up with Kong, but story-wise now it's really below average. To kinda finish this video, let's talk about something that I would like to see the legendary Godzillaverse do, and something that would make me really excited would be if they'd get, well, Guillermo del Toro. You know, if you haven't heard about him yet, he's quite famous for his insanely good monster designs. He's one of the main people behind the movie I already compared Godzilla vs. Kong to, Pacific Rim. He also did Pan's Labyrinth and both of the old Hellboy movies. And his approach to monsters in movies is just special. It's exactly what the Godzillaverse right now needs, because he, well, treats monsters like humans. He actually gives them emotions. And that's the problem I currently have with the Monsterverse. Because it's really hard to relate to those monsters. They just fight. That's all. I mean, there was some relationship stuff with Kong in this movie specifically, but it was just really surface level and didn't really help his character at all. What I want to see is them, the Godzilla Legendary verse, hiring Guillermo del Toro, giving him as much money as he wants, giving him as much freedom as he wants to hire whoever he wants, and I mean, probably not allowing to redesign the Godzilla design they went for, but at the very least, allowing to create a, well, antagonist monster for Godzilla. And, well, I cannot promise that this idea would make money, because, well, the Monsterverse is just in a downward trend, and something would have to be really good to, well, after this downward trend, get it back up. But something I can promise if they actually hire him is the movie's going to become a classic. The movie's going to be one of the top Godzilla movies for Godzilla fans. It's just going to be one of the favorites for them. Because I'm absolutely sure Guillermo del Toro could make a classic if he were given the right tools and the right support. Well, that's it. If you enjoyed it, if you agree, if you found this helpful, be so kind, leave me a like. If you want to see more, leave me a subscribe. And, well, within a few days, hopefully, I'll upload the overly in-depth spoiler review. But I'm gonna wait a few days after uploading this one and read through comments, see if anyone has anything to say about what I said. Tell me, what did you found stupid in the movie? What would you like me to talk about in the next video? And honestly, I don't know. Let's just keep it low. Without doing anything, well, I believe my average from videos, if I upload them, is probably around 30, 40 within a few weeks. So I'm gonna just grab low-hanging fruit and say, get me to 100 views, and at least one person ask me in the comments to do reviews on the other Monsterverse movies, and I'll do it. But until then, thanks for watching and have a beautiful day.